Hey YouTube, this is Alexander and this is the OnePlus X. I've been using the OnePlus X for a week and a half now and I feel like it's a good time to go ahead and give you all my full video review. So without further ado, this is my OnePlus X review. Let's go ahead and get started. So just what is the OnePlus X? Well, in short, it's an even more budget-friendly phone from a company named OnePlus. It starts at a relatively low off-contract and unlocked price of $250 and comes in two main colors, champagne and onyx. Here, I've got the champagne model, which is white with a gold metal frame around the glass and some buttons on the front. The OnePlus X is sporting glass on both the front and back, making it more prone to damage if dropped and super slippery to hold, but the trade-off is a very nice sleek feeling device. However, because it is so slippery, I had to be careful of the surfaces I placed it on, otherwise it would slide off. The size of the OnePlus X is very manageable though. For somebody like me with smaller hands, the OnePlus X was a dream to use, strictly speaking in terms of size. Using it with one hand wasn't difficult and it's light enough for my dainty wrist to feel comfortable using it for even 30 minutes straight. As mentioned, it has a nice metal frame which houses the buttons, ports, speaker holes, and SIM and SD card tray. Yeah, you heard that right. This phone does allow for either two SIM cards to be used or a SIM card and an SD card all in one little tray, which is actually pretty cool. On the same side as that SIM and SD card slot, there are textured volume rocker and power buttons, which are much more clicky than I was expecting from a $250 smartphone. On the bottom, we have our micro USB, not USB Type-C unfortunately, and a misleading speaker setup, since only the left grill is a loudspeaker. Also, the placement of the speaker makes it easy to cover up when watching videos or playing games, which is a bummer but not a huge deal. Moving around the left side, we have a notification profile switcher, which I rarely used, and although it does feel high quality with its metal construction, solid feedback, and nice texture, I really don't care for it. The buttons seem upside down, with silent mode being at the top of the switch rather than the bottom, and the automatic switching in the software has been taken out in favor of just using the manual switch. And finally, love it or hate it, up top is where the headphone jack lives. On the back is where we have our camera and flash setup. This is a 13 megapixel f2.2 camera that has been, well, okay. For $250, it'll get the job done, but is by no means able to compete with the likes of the Galaxy S7, Nexus 6P, or iPhone 6s. But I think we already knew that. What I will say is that it's decently fast to take a photo in good lighting, and the camera app has quite a few nice features, including the ability to swipe between different camera modes like manual and slow-mo, and the addition of burst mode is neat to have. As for actual image quality though, well, in bright lighting, getting a good shot isn't too difficult, but white balance may seem a bit warm at times. Turn the lights a little lower and watch the noise dramatically increase. By the time it gets dark, images aren't anything to brag about by any means, with lots of noise and oftentimes coming out at least a little blurry. Also, I've noticed HDR to produce oddly dark images in extreme low light. All in all, it's safe to say that this is definitely an area where OnePlus made some cuts to get the price down, but at least you have some nice software options. Moving around to the front, we can see that 5-inch 1920 by 1080p AMOLED display, which is protected by Gorilla Glass 3. Honestly, I really like the display for the most part. Whites tend to be on the cooler side, which I don't mind. Colors were nicely saturated and it can get super bright, which was actually the worst part for me. I noticed at times that the adaptive brightness setting would jack the brightness all the way up when it noticed the lighting in a dark room get slightly brighter, or when I'm on my walks when I pass by a street light. During these times, I just turned off the adaptive brightness and adjusted it to my liking. The flip side to this though is I didn't have any issues seeing it outdoors in direct sunlight. Now just under the display are some capacitive buttons, which were all right to use. I didn't mind using them during the day or in good lighting, but the fact that they aren't backlit made them somewhat difficult to press during times of absolute darkness, like when I'm using it in bed at night. However, the cool thing about this phone is that you don't have to use them if you don't want to, because Oxygen OS does give you the option of using on-screen or capacitive buttons. However, if you opt to use the on-screen, you now have these mostly useless symbols hanging around at the bottom bezel. This brings me to the next part though. Oxygen OS is OnePlus's skin used atop of Android. Here we have Android 5.1.1 Lollipop with an expected upgrade to 6.0 Marshmallow eventually. Despite the OnePlus X running the previous build of Android, it still has some cool tricks up its sleeve with Oxygen OS. For starters, you have the option of using either on-screen or capacitive buttons as mentioned. There are also gestures you can use while the screen is off to perform certain actions, such as waking the screen with a double tap or drawing an O to open the camera. I did find that these would activate in my pocket though, so I just turned them off. There's also a system-wide dark mode which can be paired with an accent color, which I've been using since I got the phone, and it's one of my favorite features. You've also got an option to customize the LED notification color and even choose which apps have which permissions, which is especially awesome since that is a feature of Android Marshmallow that OnePlus has brought to the lollipop-toting OnePlus X. You can also customize which toggles appear in the quick toggles area of the pull-down menu, which is pretty handy. All of these software goodies are nice, but how does the OnePlus X actually perform? Pretty well in most cases. Performing daily tasks like browsing the web, watching videos, jotting down homework assignments all go without a hitch. I did notice that Snapchat constantly dropped frames and have this sort of weird slow motion effect throughout the entire app, which was really annoying me early on, but that's since gone away. Playing games hasn't been much of an issue either for the Snapdragon 801, Adreno 330, and 3GB of RAM, unless they're somewhat graphically heavy games. Lighter games like One More Line and 99 Problems are playable without any lag or stutter, while more intense games like Alto's Adventure and Riptide GP2 will have some stutter and lag every so often. In other words, this is by no means a phone to play super intense or heavy games, its specs just won't allow it. Lastly is battery life. So how does a mid-range phone with a 5-inch 1080p display, a Snapdragon 801, and Adreno 330 fare in the battery department? Well, it's definitely a weak spot for the OnePlus X. Its small 25 mAh battery can get me through a day, but more often than not, I find myself reaching for the charger around 5 or 6 p.m. Of course, your mileage may vary, but my usage is pretty average, browsing Reddit, a lot of texting, Twitter, a healthy dose of Snapchat, and YouTube. Nothing real heavy, and I'm not watching hours and hours worth of YouTube, but the little battery just struggles for me under those conditions. Overall, the OnePlus X is a pretty decent smartphone with an emphasis on outer beauty rather than inner. OnePlus set out to make a budget phone that looked absolutely beautiful, and while they did so, it came at the expense of having an at best average battery, okay camera, and decent performance under heavy situations. Additionally, the OnePlus X lacks NFC for things like wireless payments and photo transfers. OnePlus has also omitted support for AT&T's Band 17 and T-Mobile's Band 12 here in the States, which are two of the most popular bands for LTE. While I did get an LTE signal for most of my time using the phone in Southern California, many people probably won't and will instead be stuck with the lesser HSPA Plus at best. It isn't all gloom though. Despite the areas of mediocrity to achieve its budget-friendly status, you are getting a beauty of a smartphone, but I think the OnePlus X is a great example of how looks aren't everything, especially in a phone. That's pretty much going to end it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.